Hello, and welcome back to Voices of Kinship, a storytelling series by Travel Kinship, where we amplify the voices behind the destinations and the people shaping meaningful travel around the world. I'm Kelly Tolliday, Director of Sales and Marketing at Travel Kinship, a global B2B representation and marketing company for some of the world's most unique and culturally rooted luxury DMCs. At Travel Kinship, we partner with destination experts who don't just sell travel, they safeguard stories, support local communities, and design experiences that go far beyond the itinerary. Through Voices of Kinship, I get to sit down with these founders to explore how travel is evolving, what responsible luxury travel really looks like on the ground, and why the strongest journeys are built on trust, relationships, and deep local knowledge. Today's conversation is one that I'm really excited to share. We are traveling to India today through the lens of storytelling, design, and cultural immersion with Aditi Chadha, who is the co founder of Anecdotes. This is a conversation that was recorded with one of our team members, Bella, so you'll see her here in the video interviewing Aditi very soon. Anecdotes is a destination specialist reimagining how travelers experience one of the world's most complex and captivating countries in the world, and one of my personal favorites, India. So let's dive right in and enjoy this beautiful conversation between Aditi and Bella. I hope you enjoy this conversation.
Hi, my name is Aditi, and I am based out of India, the beautiful country of incredible India. And I'm one of the co founders and partners of a destination specialist entity called Anecdotes. And we specialize in various curated tours and experiences across India and the subcontinent. So, Bhutan, Nepal, and Sri Lanka, along with the diversity of India, of course. And as destination specialists, or as we actually like to call ourselves, leisure designers, we curate various special interest tours, experiences, excursions across every genre of travel. So, whether that's culture or history or music or culinary, we go through sort of any kind of interest or any theme that one is looking for to explore this incredible country.
What is your connection to your destination and how does it shape the way that you design your experiences?
So I've been fortunate to be born in India. So I have lived here for a very large part of my life. I think that's sort of been the impetus for me, and I would have to say for most of our team as well, to be able to showcase the beauty and to showcase the various stories and experiences that the country has. I think having lived here and very interestingly having seen the growth of what India has been and what it is today over my lifetime thus far, I have seen it sort of transition from a very developing nation, as we call it, to sitting here today in 2025 as possibly being one of the more upcoming, opportunity driven, and really vibrant nations that's coming onto the global map. So I think seeing going through the decades of what the country has been through in terms of the kind of regions, in terms of the growth of people, in terms of the exposure that we've had to the world and the world has fortunately had to us, in terms of just our economic development and infrastructure, I think every facet is kind of still inspires one every day into coming up with new ideas of what we can do to experience the destination. So, and also my background thus far personally has been to, I was born into a tourism family. So I've kind of lived and breathed this concept of hospitality and tourism for most of my life. So that's also shaped a lot of how I see certain things. And, as we say in our business, it's never a holiday. You're always looking around for new things, no matter where you're traveling in the world. And personally, again, I've been a little fortunate to have lived in a few years in different parts of the world, including Europe, UK, not Europe, but UK and the US. And I think I've traveled, of course, a lot to Europe and other parts of the world. And I think meeting people from different parts of the world and understanding one's culture and understanding their lifestyles and the way they see the world and they see certain experiences, that really sensitizes you and makes you aware. And I think that learning then comes into when we are designing products and experiences in India, because we ensure that we're speaking to what the global world today is looking for. So I think again the touch wood, the ability to be able to have lived and imbibe this culture, but also being in a position today to be an ambassador of the culture, which is really what I think all of us at Anecdotes really are at the end of the day. That has sort of shaped a lot of how we design our experience and the sensitivities to understanding communities from around the world so that we make sure each nation or each person gets exactly what they're looking for. That sort of goes into a lot of when we make our experiences and share our experiences.
Amazing. Would you say that was the specific gap that you saw when developing your DMC? The fact that people weren't appreciating these little.
Yeah, I mean, there were many reasons I think that come together. I mean, when you look at the gap, or I would say everything comes at a certain time, right? So I think for us as a DMC, a large part of our ethos and when we were born, our purpose was stemmed by the opportunity, the growth in the nation, as well as this growing need that, like you just mentioned, there was in the world to be able to have these kind of experiences through. So I think that sort of really did shape a lot of how we kind of set ourselves up initially and the purpose with which we started. But I think one of the main facets that really pushed us at the time was to see, I mean, from the consumer side or from our partner side, there was this growing need and this growing trend, or I would say this sort of itch, as I call it, in a more positive way. So I think that these burning questions is what I found personally to be a gap to say that if people are looking at this, then what are we offering here in India to fulfill that? How are we giving them a portfolio of these various experiences that they can choose from that answers that desire or that speaks to that particular desire. And also at the same time, there was this growing sort of trend of some lovely and boutique travel products in our country, like we call it, which was very interesting boutique hotels, a growing number of experts that were coming in from different domains and different fields and lending themselves to travel experiences. A growing sort of explosion of artists, designers, musicians, chefs, historians, this sort of youth that was coming out and this experience that was coming out that I again saw as an opportunity to say, how can we bring these experts into a tourism or a travel experience for our guests coming into India so they actually start seeing a country the way it is and the culture the way it is, and then travel becomes just the by means for that to happen. So I think that sort of whole trend that came together was the gap and the opportunity, which at the time just fit beautifully and led us to kind of create ourselves and our proposition.
Do you think the name Anecdotes reflects that ethos from you?
I think so. It came with a lot of thought and a lot of purpose. We again did sort of three of us co-founded the company, but for me personally, again, the name was it just had to reflect who we were, And I always perceive us, and as I said, we introduce ourselves as leisure designers because for us it's all about the thinking, it's all about the itinerary, the product, the experience first. And we kept thinking about how can that come across, how can we still be seen as a travel and tourism in the traditional sense of the word of the industry, but yet be seen beyond? How can we be seen as experience led, but yet be operationally, which we are very, very sound and very, very particular about? And more than anything else, how can we bring our mission to life? And our mission really is, when we were thinking about it, saying, why are we doing this? It was to be able to create stories. It was to be able to create memories. And as a company or as a destination specialist or as an ambassador of the Indian culture, as I said, our role was to be a facilitator to create those stories. That's what we perceive ourselves as. So we thought a lot and said, how can this come out in a fun, approachable, fresh way? Because that's sort of, I think, some of our key personalities as a brand, and that's how Anecdotes was born. So it really is to reflect our entire vision and our purpose of being storytellers and of being the mechanism or the means through which you create your stories when you're having a trip through India. It's like I always tell anybody, it's what we do is to give you that narrative and to give you that anecdote that you'll go home and tell your children and your grandchildren and your neighbors, or that frame that you'll put up on your wall. That's our mission, to make sure you capture those moments.
And would you describe that as your unique selling point away from other companies that are similar to you?
Definitely, I would say I think that's one, because that again, to take that mission and to take that vision and put it into everything we do, that makes us unique. I like to believe that makes us unique. What that really means on an everyday basis for us is that we're always in search for what next, right? There's a freshness of ideas, there's a constant churn of thinking, there's a constant churn of, I would say, curiosity, where we're always on the lookout. I think that definitely becomes one of the unique points where, like I said, it's first about the experience, it's first about an exploration of your interests, and then it's about the travel. I think that in addition to that, there's a lot that, I mean, our team is who we are. We're a very boutique, as I said, very open-ended company where we don't have hierarchies and we don't have, so many layers that we need to go through. Our team is empowered. They're fantastic. They've had decades, if not some of them, cumulatively centuries of experience in tourism. That I think also makes us unique because we understand the nuances, we understand the detailing that goes into these operations, but we also have this curiosity.
Amazing. What would you say makes your destination so special? And why do you feel compelled to share it with your other travellers?
Well, I mean, India and the region as we have it, I mean, I would say beginning with just the sheer location that we have in the world map, maybe not absolutely central of the world, but close to being central of the world geographically, and historically being a very pivotal part, because we all, as people often believe, India as a nation is one or hosts one of the most ancient civilizations. We've been at the forefront of every era, whether it's been colonialism, whether it's been, times of the Silk Route, whether it's been, we've had sort of, various settlements come into our country. So we have an influence of the world, whether it's Dutch or whether it's French or whether it's British or Portuguese and more, that sits with us. So I think just the sheer probably location and the time in history, and added to the fact that as a nation and as far as our own history is or our own mythology and religion goes, we I mean, we are one of the most diverse nations in the world. So I think our entire sociological and geographical, layout has made it one of the most interesting cultures and civilizations. So I often imagine if I didn't live and breathe this nation, and given maybe my curiosity and my love to want to explore the world, I would put India on the top of my list just because of the fact that one just imagines there's so much to do. But in addition to, of course, the history, and in addition to, like I said, the significance we've had, I think the fact of this vibrancy and diversity that we have in our country today, there is literally something for everybody. Whether it's adventure and you want to, go on a beautiful trek in the middle of nowhere, whether it's wildlife, I mean, we have some of the highest number of tigers that are housed in our density of our nation, whether it's beautiful shorelines and beaches, almost two-thirds of our country is surrounded by water, whether it's culture and history, like I said, we're the birthplace of some of the civilizations and religions around the world, and mythologies and stories that still live today, whether it's just Ayurveda and wellness, again, something that we've touchwood mastered and done fairly well with. So, no matter what age or what stage or what interest you host, there's something that the nation has today, and I think that makes our destination very, very unique. And for me, the most exciting thing is that sitting here today, we're at the time where we have history and we have contemporary. So what I love about the time and place of our country today is that there's so much happening. We have this growing youth population. We have some of the best hotel chains and restaurants and entertainment venues of the world coming to want to set up in India. At the same time, we have a burst of institutions and corporates and events and things happening in the country. And yet you have these historical highlights, some of the largest number of UNESCO sites in our country. So the fact that there's so much happening and yet you can find your little pocket of solace or find your ideal trip through all of that and see how history and contemporary come together. I think that's amazing. I just feel that that's something that very few destinations around the world can do.
No, definitely. It's definitely your unique selling point, I think.
Yeah.
If someone could have one day visiting anywhere in India, where would you suggest?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, again, I would say this goes back a lot into, it's so personal for everybody. If you love food, I would say spending a day doing some of the old street food and quintessential, venues for the different kinds of cuisines that we have, or actually sitting at an Indian family's home, which we've done for a lot of our guests before, and seeing the process of how these recipes are created, as well as seeing even just the simple way that to set a dining table in our homes today, and to sit down and have a meal, at a local professional's home or a local family's home. I think that's just an experience that is just beautiful. It just makes it so personal. If you love wildlife, that moment when you see one of those majestic tigers look at you. I mean, I personally can tell you an anecdote for myself. I was in Ranthambore recently, and I hadn't seen a tiger in maybe over a decade. I'd been very often, but for some reason, I hadn't sort of seen it, and it had been a while since I'd been also. But I saw this family of tigers come at us, just walking past our vehicles while we were on a safari. And I actually literally had tears in my eyes at that point in time. And I said, wow, this is just the most surreal experience that you can ever have, just sitting in the midst of nature. And there were people from all over the world, because we were all the jeeps of the safari were together. And it was just pin drop silence. Everybody had just one focus, which was to see these beautiful creatures walk past you. And they just walked past and did their thing. They didn't say anything, they didn't do anything. So I think again, if you love nature and you love wildlife, that is an experience that I would say you keep a day in your calendar, definitely. Similarly, if it's culture, I think to sit. I mean, we had one of the most enriching experiences with some of our guests that had come in, and we were sitting at a historian's home in Rajasthan, and they were just walking us through a chronological history of the nation and of the country and the state, how it sort of went through different rulers and ancestors. And it was just a very enriching experience to have. And then that was, of course, followed by a beautiful meal. So that sort of makes it even more exciting. So like I said, I think if you had a day to do, firstly, I would say take more than a day. But if you did have a day, I would say that it should be for what makes you happy. And I personally think India will have something for everybody. So whatever that is, whether it's deep sea diving, whether it's wildlife, whether it's adventure, whether it's music, to sit in a temple in India and listen to a classical Indian musician sing and just bring the walls alive, literally, because they actually resonate the sound of the instruments and the vocals. That experience is just unparalleled. And fortunately, we've done a lot of this for a lot of our guests. So, it just feels like it's so happy to know that it's possible and that it's actually something memorable.
Well, that sounds incredible. I mean, I'd love to visit one day.
Anytime.
You describe your itineraries as concepts that go beyond travel. What does this mean in the context of your company? And can you give any examples of itineraries that are taking this concept?
Yeah, so I have a little bias to this because I always, like I said, I mentioned earlier that I always like to introduce us as designers, as like we call the leisure designers, because travel becomes in our world, like I said, it's highly important about understanding where you're going to stay, how you're going to get there, what you're going to do, how you're going to travel, and all those luxuries are a part of everything that we do. That's why we are the specialists that we are. But to us, it always begins with, you know, what is it that you want to experience? So it's not about the travel or the destination, the actual location or the hotel. It first starts with what you want to do and what you want to experience. And what's that sort of memory that you're looking to want to create? So when we say beyond travel, it's that influences the way we even come up with our programs and itineraries or look at any requests that we're shared because it starts with us bringing in the cultural facets. So for us, the biggest question really is, what are you going to spend your time doing? How many interactions and how many touch points of culture can I bring to life in your day? Which part of the country can serve your ideal wish list? Because the nation is so diverse from the northeast region to the south of India to central India, everything has a diversity of experiences. So when we talk about beyond travel, I think the first feature is to really begin with these questions and then bring in the itinerary that meets that particular request. So, giving you a few examples really how this has sort of shaped us is we were approached recently by a few different kind of requests. So we were approached by somebody who wanted to do a photography tour, and we went deep into. We've done some of these before, where we did a beautiful photography tour led by one of the leading photographers of India, and they did an entire what they call a digital storytelling exercise for a week while one was traveling through Ladakh. So the whole experience was designed and the routing was designed so that they could capture these memories. So when we were talking to one of our partners and they said we want to do something related to photography, one of the first things that I thought to myself is I said, come to India when there's a festival. So it wasn't really about, like I said, travel. It was let us plan this experience around one of these really vibrant festivals. Like we have the Festival of Color, which is Holi, and we have the Festival of Light, which is Diwali. And we do a very special experience as Anecdotes, which is called Dev Diwali, which is just around the same time after Diwali. It's considered one of the most auspicious dates in the Hindu calendar, and is done in one of the ancient cities of the world, which is Varanasi. So we said, if you want to do photography, you really want to give your group or your clients this experience of seeing and actually practicing their technique, or as you are a photography lover, to see these different rituals being performed, then come around this time, do the festival, and then we will do other parts of the country that complement that experience. So, what in effect happened for us is that, again, the interest came first, the takeaway came first. How am I going to make sure that your clients capture some of the best images they were going to ever have and keep, and like I said, put it on their wall for their children and grandchildren to see? And one of the best times to do it is around the festival. Similarly, we were approached by somebody who wanted to do a culinary tour. So we created an itinerary from the north to the south of India, just focusing on food. And the whole narrative was about interactions, chefs, experts, cookouts, street food tours, running through the length and breadth of the country. And that defined the itinerary. That defined where we would stay. That defined, what routing we would take. So the travel came, but it came after the product or the experiences were first put together. So similar to that, there are a lot. I mean, there are a lot of itineraries that have held the concept or the experience at the heart of it, and then built the entire travel around it. And I think the other facet that always I believe takes you beyond travel is this network of experts that we've been fortunate, or as we call it, storytellers that we've been fortunate to bring in. So we've had the pleasure of working with experts in fields of Central Asian studies. So there's been an ex-Harvard professor that's led some of our trips, photographers that have led some of the tours. We've had a TEDx speaker and an author, a historian, that has led a trip of ours in the southern part of India with a musician accompanying them. Cultural anthropologists, textile experts and artists. So all of these sort of, like I said, experts and storytellers in their respective fields, they've become an inherent part of the design and the experience for us. And that's why, I think and I say that it goes beyond travel, because when we're looking at our tours and we're looking at our experiences, even the hotels, it's just, we have all the luxury brands, and India is known for its hospitality. So Those are all there. But there's such beautiful old homes that have now been converted to fantastic boutique hotels. They are, you know, tea bungalows, which have a history of their own completely, which have now been converted to some of the, again, leading hotels in the country. So all of that together is where I feel we kind of put ourselves in the prism beyond travel.
It definitely gives the whole experience like a handcrafted feel,
Yeah.
I think. So yeah, that's amazing. Could you share an example of how you've given, say, a classic itinerary like the Golden Triangle a unique twist? Because obviously a lot of people come in wanting to see the main sites as well as the smaller experiences.
Yeah, so Golden Triangle, as I call it the Heritage Triangle, just so that we can be a little different and because I think it's just the heart of what we have in India. So we've done few things that I think can make it different. I mean, the first part is really what are we doing? And as you know, the Golden Triangle is essentially Delhi, Agra, Jaipur, which is sort of central West India, the heart of India, and or northwest India. And the what you do when you're in these cities and how maybe the itineraries can be tweaked is something that we've kind of done both of and made it, as we call it, unique and given it our twist in how it's done. So in Delhi, for example, we sometimes start the entire experience because one wants to walk you through the history as you go through the Heritage Triangle. Each city, whether it's Agra or Delhi or Jaipur, has its own unique aspect in terms of history, in terms of culture, in terms of activities and experiences. So even in a city like Delhi, which is sort of our capital and one of the more cosmopolitan cities in the country, we've done some unique experiences that we feel have made a difference. We've gone to some fantastic Indian fusion restaurants and actually had a chef sit with our guests and give them an oration of Indian food while they're actually savoring what they're actually, giving them a sort of anecdotal history about the food. So it's not just the taste, but it's also the stories and the narratives behind that. We've done some very interesting museum tours that have been done exclusively for the guests because it helps you give them a chronology and a visual of all the various cities and all the various traditions that one is expected to have. And that's how we kind of start the tour for them in Delhi as well. In destinations like Agra, for example, we've done, which has been one of my favorites, is a very interesting walking tour of the unknown side of Agra and unknown monuments or lesser known monuments of Agra. But the narrative and the story has been about Mughal history from the perspective of women. So while we talk about a lot of the ruling and the rulers and the kings and their descendants and Akbar and Shah Jahan and Jahangir and sort of the lineage of the Mughal dynasty, we don't sometimes talk about the wives and the sisters and the others that are a part of the family, but they've had a very important role to play in history as well, and in some of the monuments that are some of our heritage sites today. We've done experiences like yoga in the morning with a view of the Taj, which of course gives you a sort of different view altogether. And in Jaipur, we've done some beautiful work with the textiles, local artists, private jewelry showcases. So, how the whole process of jewelry is done in our country. We see the end product and it's stunning, but we actually understand the nuances of creating that piece of jewelry or creating that textile, the entire sort of line of how this goes through. I think it completely changes the way you see whether it's a garment or whether it's a piece of jewelry. We've done local artist visiting a local artist's home and having a dinner in Jaipur, which again I thought was a very unique twist and a very unique aspect to showcase of the city. Cycling tours, which changes the way you're doing something. So you're seeing the same site, but you're doing it in a different way. So I think these smaller sort of activities have given it a unique twist. And in addition to that, we've also sort of played with the itinerary. So we often suggest that if you're going, let's say, from Delhi, Agra to Jaipur, why don't you do Ranthambore as well? So that you have either a 1 day or a 2 day safari experience in the same program. So again, there are sort of facets that you can, and they're similar to that. In addition to Ranthambore, there's some beautiful boutique hotels that come in the same route that we have suggested, so that you get a different experience for a night or two before you continue on the golden triangle. So there are different ways in which I think it can be made very interesting, and like I said, we're constantly on the lookout for what new and what next.
It sounds good. It's definitely a different twist on what you often see online, but that's
Yeah.
great. I know you've briefly mentioned the Friends of Anecdotes and how, but could you explain how do they help shape your itineraries and experience that are beneficial to your guests?
Yeah, so when I say friends of anecdotes, and I love it because it makes us feel like a family. But it's sort of it's different. I would see different kinds of partners, right? So we have a beautiful portfolio of hotels, and some of the leading luxury hotels in the country that we work with, which is one aspect of what we call the friends. Because at the end of the day, they're our biggest support. They're the ones that make sure that we get the right rooms for our guests, we get the early check-in if it's needed, we get the extra service that may be required. So they are a part, and we do a lot of engagements with them personally. So I think for them we're ever grateful, and that's one part of our network of friends, and that's ever growing. So it's not just the chains, whether it's an Oberoi or whether it's a Taj, or whether it's a postcard, but it's also some of the boutique properties today that are always coming up. I think the other part is the storytellers. So, like we said, when we think beyond travel, there's a network of these experts, researchers, historians, photographers, dancers, musicians, chefs, all of these various experts that are, in a different genre or a different field, but they have the same vision of wanting to bring our culture to life through their lens or through their art form or through their knowledge. And they are a large part of what we call the friends of anecdotes because they make us always think beyond what the usual travel could be. And they add a lot of value, they lead a lot of our trips. So I think that's an interesting facet. And of course, the most important and the third part is our actual partners around the world. I think to be able to work with partners who have the same vision or the same purpose, whose clients are looking for the same kind of experiences in India that we are attempting to and have offered, they are they are they are the key part of our friends of anecdotes because I think without them we won't have that constant innovation. So I personally love it when we have requests that come in from different parts of the world for very unique itineraries or detail oriented itineraries. It just makes us constantly keep innovating and speaks very much to the purpose of what Anecdotes is. So that's sort of, I would say, the universe of the friends that we have, and we hope to keep growing.
That's great. Moving on to more sustainability and your values as a company, in what ways do your DMC support the local communities around you? That could be artisans or the people you work with.
So, I mean, I think as a destination specialist or a DMC, our role is that, and I go back to that notion of being the ambassadors, is to bring out these different unique communities, cultures, organizations, and different people in different walks of life that are actually trying to bring to life what our culture is and what our history is. And incorporating them in our tours and itineraries becomes our responsibility. So that, it's like the saying goes, the more you see, the more you know. And the more you know, the more sensitive you are, the more compassionate you are. So if we are in a position to be able to expose our global clients to some of these communities, to some of these NGOs, to some of these schools, to some of these associations that are working in fields of sustainability, of enrichment, of empowerment, whether it's women or children or just overall creating a more inclusive environment. I think that would be our biggest blessing to be able to do that because that means that we're giving them exposure and we're giving them an outlet to reach out to the world and tell their stories. So it's not just the stories that we're creating for the clients, it's also the stories that we're being able to showcase of these various communities in our country. So we've done, I mean, we have done, but we have to keep doing more of that. And for example, just to give you a small example, we work with communities who are about anti-poaching, again, in the wildlife in Ranthambore. And we've had some beautiful interactions with them. We've taken our guests through their particular area. We've shown them how they have taken, they essentially, the poaching community has been actually employed today to create sustainable products. So they've given them a source of livelihood, and that in a way has empowered these individuals and taken them away from any activities that are related to poaching, for instance. Similarly, I think that when even in terms of the properties that we talk about, whether they are, more about recycle or more about solar enhancements or actually properties where they're employing almost an entire village, that again goes into sustainability. So for us as brand ambassadors, as tourism professionals, it's very important that we allow guests to experience these areas. And of course, every client has a different need. So I can understand if somebody says, no, I just want the most luxurious. But there are a lot of people today that are looking at the new and at the fresh and value this aspect of, where am I staying, and what is that area about. So that also becomes a way for us to support the communities in a different way. So I think just overall, sensitizing customers to what India has and being able to give these outlets to these various outfits, whether it's communities that are guides today, whether it's NGOs, whether it's even interactions with school children, for example, things such as that. I mean, there are small steps that we take, but it allows us to support communities on a larger scale.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, does that tie back to your ethos around responsible luxury? So how do you kind of balance the expectations between your luxury guests within your business and the need to protect the cultural aspects of your country?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does to some extent, definitely, because I mean, responsible luxury really begins with, at the heart of it, it is to understand what each person that's the customer is looking for. And responsibility means that you're trying to find the right product customer fit. So if there is an expectation for somebody that they want to go and sit at a beautiful beach resort in Goa and not expose any activity or not do any excursion, then that's the holiday for them. And if they have every right to sort of course, experience that. But if it is about, let's say, more immersion in, like we were talking about, cultural experiences or culinary experiences, I think the responsibility for us as a DMC begins with making sure it's the product that meets the expectation. So there is much less of a chance of a mismatch because you don't really leave that room for error. And that's why I go back to the idea of being designers and about the detailing because that's the heart of what we want to actually create. And we have a thorough process when we work with our partners before creating itineraries where we ask these questions. What is the client looking for? What was the last destination they went to? What's the kind of hotel anywhere in the world that they've stayed that they've loved? Because it helps us understand their mind, understand their desires better. So we ensure that we more responsibly create an itinerary for them to give them exactly, of course, what they're looking for. I think that, if you're looking at it in terms of just the itinerary and in terms of the exposure, again, responsibility comes through giving them abilities to interact with these local communities, interact with these experiences along the way, and making sure that they have the time in their itineraries to do that. Again, that's our responsibility to ensure that, and also in the way the itineraries are designed. Just coming back to simple notions of carbon footprint, you don't create programs where there's a lot of travel. We have to think through the logistics of how even a day is designed. Even in a city like Delhi or Calcutta, if I'm making a program on a historical trail, it's on us to make sure that we design it in a manner where, for the client, it's the most comfortable, and environmentally, it's the most sustainable way to actually see the city. So I think all of these facets, whether it comes from the way the itinerary is designed, right down to the kind of properties, the kind of itineraries, everything comes in tandem to the idea of being responsible and being a luxury DMC as well, in that sense.
Amazing, yeah. It definitely all ties together. What should travel buyers know about working with your team, and what kind of support can they expect from you and your company?
So, I mean, I think that the travel, I mean, travel buyers and our, as I said, our partners, firstly, their family. So they begin by, being, like we said, the friends of anecdotes or the family of anecdotes. So, everything that we do is, again, with a vision and a purpose to create relationships and longer term relationships. It's not about one client or one request. It's about creating a bridge between us and between their country or their company or their clients, and making sure that bridge is, it's going to be there for time to come. So that's the way we look at our partners, and that's the way we approach it. We're designers. So I think to be able to be seen as designers by our partners is important, because we hope that they trust the fact that we will create itineraries and handcraft programs that are detailed and designed to what their clients want. And that's our biggest responsibility, to start with that, to make sure the clients get what they're looking for. We're also advisors, and that means that advisory sometimes comes with its own nuances. So we have situations where we might say, look, we don't think this is possible, or we suggest there's another way to do this. So we hope that the buyers see us transparently as advisors, where we will always put the heart of what the clients want first. And for that, sometimes we may need to change certain requests. We may need to convince clients otherwise of how things can be done. Today people read so much, they hear so much, you have so many tools at your disposal, but our expertise and our experience on ground, it's enabled us to know what is possible. Our mistakes have helped us grow, and we have to make sure that we make each itinerary better or each program better. And we're at a point today where we have scaled the length and breadth of the country. So we understand what works and what may not work. So we are advisors, and we hope that we're seen as advisors. And I think that our buyers should maybe have the faith that anybody in our team is empowered. Like I said, we're a very boutique company, so we don't have layers. We're quick, we're fresh, we're empowered. So we will ensure that you have your information at the fastest possible and as transparently as possible. So if I know I need 2 days to come up with an idea, I will tell you I need 2 days. Please give me that time, because I want to make sure we get it right. So I think that sort of aspect of transparency and trust, which comes with the empowerment that our team has, is also very important. And the heart of it for us really is that, like I said, when it's family, then it's there for time to come. So we hope to keep strengthening that bridge and hope to keep maintaining that relationship. I mean, we'll be there at the drop of a hat. So if you tell us you've got clients, you've got partners sitting in Brazil or Poland or the US or UK, I mean, as founders, we're on calls any time of the day. We're on WhatsApp any time of the day. We'll take a flight, we'll be with you. You need us, not a problem. We're there.
And do you think this approach is what makes your DMC stand out in the luxury space?
I think so. I think the idea of being oriented to storytelling. I think the idea of being, like I said, it's more a partnership with our different buyers around the world. I think the idea of perceiving us as ambassadors of the culture, so we are more open and more innovative with what we're recommending. Also, the expertise that we do have as a team. I mean, our team has worked in tourism for cumulatively, our three of our founders have worked in tourism for over a century. So I think the fact that we have the relationships and we have the fortunate ability to work with some of the best hotels in the country and some of the best service providers in the country, that is all that I think comes together to enable us to offer a very, very classical, detailed, luxurious product, but with an element of freshness and innovation and design or creativity at the heart of it. And I think that is what makes us different. And coupled with that, the culture of our team, the empowerment of our team, the boutique sort of outlet, the nature that we have, where we are more about making the stories, I think that also helps us to be unique. And that comes out a little bit in, I think, how we communicate and how we sort of position ourselves as well.
And Moving on to the future, what is your approach to product development to keep people coming back year after year?
Yeah, I mean, for us, like I said, innovation is at the heart of it. Fresh and fun is what I always tell our team. You know, when you look at a new program, how fresh is it? How fun is it? That's the key of what we're going to do. So I think the innovation and the constant evolution is always there, and for that reason, we're a part of associations in India, we're in industry forums in India, we're constantly attending or networking with events and experts, whether it's with food or whether it's with art or whether it's with culture or history. So that enables us to keep the network going. Again, with even tourism bodies around the country, so that we know what's new, what's happening, what developments are coming about. The hotel fraternity, like I said, there's a new property in some part of the country virtually every week. And to be able to tangibilize that experience, so our team and ourselves, we've traveled all these trails that we now talk about. So we understand sort of the on ground situation because we've been there, and that's a large part of product design and development. It's not just the concept, but it's also the execution. Does this hotel work? It's lovely conceptually for us to be able to see one aspect of this route or this culture, but can some of the clients stay here? What kind of clients will this be all right for? Does the hotel have an elevator if it's a boutique property of 3 floors? So everything it goes into making sure that it's the right product, right fit. So our product team is always on the lookout, always on the move, constantly looking at these aspects of innovation and ideas, and that's a part of our DNA.
Brilliant. And looking ahead, what's next for Anecdotes? Is there any new itineraries on the horizon or any long-term goals that you're thinking?
Yeah, so like I said, a lot more in terms of these experiences and excursions. So we started partnering exclusively and building some of these excursions in certain areas that I think are going to be very interesting. Regional development, always. There are parts of the country that we feel have been relatively unexplored, and we're releasing a series of itineraries to do that, including regions like the northeast, parts of sort of central to east India, which I think have not really been put on the forefront. Unique interests and genres, so like river cruising in India, which is a very different way of seeing the country, and I think that's going to be very exciting. Textile trails, which are going through length and breadth of the country as a new genre, which is again very interesting. Religious tourism. We've seen a lot of demand for people looking at different kinds of tours, from Buddhism to Christianity to even mythological tours, like the Ramayana tour, which combines parts of India and Sri Lanka as well. So I think different genres that are coming out, musical tours. We did a very interesting retreat a couple of years ago, which was only about Indian classical music. And again, that was something different. So more products like that are diving deeper into interests, into experiences, into different genres of travel. I think that really is going to be the fun and the future for us as well.
And just to finish up, is there a client story that has touched you or made you feel that you're making a difference in people's lives when they come over and visit?
Many. Yeah,
Any
I mean, touch
specifically?
wood. Thank you for that. But yeah, there are few. I mean, just I guess after a trip, if somebody, we had, let's say, for example, a mother-daughter that had come, and it was, I think, a family of Indian born but has lived internationally for many, many years. So it was very beautiful to see how the elder generation was bringing the younger generation and doing a very interesting bonding trip around the country. And then, when they left, the fact that they would be able to fulfill that wish for themselves or satisfy that wish, I thought was just, it really, for me, made it quite holistic. We get messages sometimes from these, that one, like I said, that anecdote moment. So there was a picture that we saw of somebody who I think saw a tiger in central India and Madhya Pradesh, and it was just like fulfilled. Thank you. So I think moments such as that, where you have that moment captured, or that feeling fulfilled, or that desire checklist, whether it's a personal reason or whether it's just something that you've never seen. We've done experiences in Varanasi, and people have seen the arti, and you come out of it and you see people just almost well up because of that moment that they've experienced, or that moments that we experience. I think those that just fulfills it. That just makes it work. Or, we've had groups of people go and do some treks in certain areas, and they've come back with this camaraderie. Like this, what they call buddies, like friends. And some of these groups that we've created for, like I said, past clients, or when a past guest or a past, one of our agents comes back and says, remember we did this with this client and they loved it, and there's somebody else who wants to do it. I think these are the small things that really make you feel that, okay, we're doing it right, and it's working. So yeah, I just hope that keeps going over time.
That sounds incredible. Is there anything you'd like to finish up with?
No, but please come to India soon, everybody. Whenever you're ready, we're here. We look forward to having you. But yeah, thank you. Just thank you for giving us the opportunity to showcase our entire subcontinent, our country. It's just we're very, very, very grateful.
No, thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for doing that.